Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. Today I am getting started on a new series that I'm going to be doing that is basically an immersion series. So I'm calling it Immersed, which basically means being immersed in another artist. So I'm going to go through the alphabet A to Z, and I'm going to essentially immerse myself in an artist and their style, and I'm going to create a piece of original art that is in the style of that artist, but is in my own theme. So the theme that I'm going to use is actually my two children. So based on parts of their names. So for my daughter, I'm going to be inspired by bees. And for my son, I'm going to be inspired by moons. And so that will be the theme of the art pieces that I create through this series. So welcome to this new series. And the first artist that we're going to be taking a look at for A is Pacita Abad. So here's a little bit more information about her, and I hope you like this series. Pacita Abad was a Filipino visual artist, a year career that began when she traveled to the United States to undertake graduate studies. She had originally planned to travel to study law after obtaining a political science degree, but instead earned another degree in Asian history and supported herself for a time as a seamstress and typist. She then studied painting at the Corcoran School of Art in Washington, D.C., then traveled the world until she eventually continued study at the Art Students League and under a few different mentors before moving to California, getting settled, and getting married. Her early paintings were primarily figurative socio-political works of people and primitive masks. Another series was large-scale paintings of underwater scenes, tropical flowers, and animal wildlife. Pacita's most extensive body of work, however, is her vibrant, colorful abstracts. Many very large-scale canvases, but also a number of small collages on a range of materials from canvas and paper to bark cloth, metal, ceramics, and glass. Pacita created over 4,500 artworks. She painted a 55-meter-long bridge called the Alcaf Bridge in Singapore, and she covered it with 2,350 multicolored circles just a few months before she died. Pacita Abad developed a technique of Trapunto painting, named after a quilting technique, which entailed stitching and stuffing her painted canvases to give them a three-dimensional sculptural effect. She then incorporated into the surface of her paintings materials such as traditional cloth, mirrors, beads, shells, plastic buttons, and other objects. Pacita had also received numerous awards during her artistic career, in which her most memorable award was actually her first. Pacita had received the TOYM Award for Art in the Philippines in 1984. That's the 10 Outstanding Young Men Award. And it's an award that had been given to men for the last 25 years before, in 1984, Pacita Abad became the first woman ever to receive this prestigious award. In Pacita receiving this award, it created a public uproar where angry letters were sent to editors of published newspapers from men and male artists who thought that they, not Pacita, should have received the award. Despite such uproar, Pacita was thrilled that she had broken the sex barrier, in which she stated in her acceptance speech that, quote, "It was long overdue that Filipino women were recognized, as the Philippines was full of outstanding women," unquote. And she proudly referred to her own mother. She had never had any children of her own, but she always called her more than 4,500 artworks her children. However, she always wanted to paint like a child and have her artwork be free, colorful, and playful. She was a very community-driven person. Perhaps that's why Pacita loved working with children, and they loved Pacita and her colorful artwork right back. There are several interviews available with teachers, mentors, students, children that just really light up with joy when they talk about Pacita as well as her artwork. She never turned down a request to help teach children and students of all ages about the joy of making art, and she gave hundreds of workshops and art lessons to students around the globe. After her passing, teachers and children are still captivated by her colorful work and her life, and students in many countries continue to create new artwork that's very much inspired by Pacita. You can learn more about Pacita Abad at her website that's now managed by her estate. That's www.pacitaabad.com. Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to make the stuffed eyes for this painting. So back to the original sketch. Let's get the black fabric. I'm going to be beading it with these little beads that are like a yellowy hue. There's a couple of beads in there that don't belong, but these are like a yellowy hue. These are little glass beads, and they have sort of an iridescence to them. So first thing is we want to get the shape of the bee's eyes. So I'm going to cut it out of book pages just to make templates to lay down on the fabric. So I guess I should have brought a pencil to kind of trace out my design, but you know what? I'm just going to freewheel it. So we know that the outside of the eye is going to be curved. And then I have to consider the size on that 12 by 12 canvas, because this will kind of predicate the entire size of the face on the canvas. So we don't want to go too big. So I'm going this direction for this eye. So this curve, I think maybe right there would be good. Then it's going to come in a little, but not a lot. It's almost straight, but not quite. And then the top, it rounds out a little bit and kind of meets the in the middle. So did we get the desired shape? I think so. Do I need it to be a little fatter here? No, I think that's okay. And if I do, I can do that on the fabric. Let's just see. When I'm looking at these, am I seeing the eyes that I see? That one's upside down. No, it's not. Let's think. No, I think I've gotten them fatter at the bottom than at the top, and that's not what we want. This is why I need a pencil to guide myself. Let's try that again. We don't have a lot of paper here. Okay, let's go this side now. This one's kind of easier for me for some reason to follow. Okay, so we want the top fat. And this is like the belly sort of the upper belly of the eye. And it gets a little more narrow here than kind of a curve like that. And actually, I kind of like this size more. So do we need to curve maybe this part in a little? Because it becomes a little curved. Freewheeling. Okay, that looks better. It doesn't turn in enough though. Hold on. So that needs to kind of go. There we go. And I could even maybe, is that what we're looking for maybe? Yeah. And even again, just sort of make that a little more interesting. Okay, I like that. So these are the bee eyes. Okay, and that's a good size. That's what I want. Okay. Sorry, it took me a minute to sort of look that over and make sure that I was doing the shape that I need. It's better to make a mistake on paper than it is to make on fabric, although I have a ton of this black fabric because I did a project with it a long time ago and I just have an absolute ton of it. So I just hacked off a big piece of it from the larger sheet, and what I'm going to do is just lay the eyes down like this and pop a pin or two through each eye, maybe just one is fine, in through the fabric onto the back, just like you would a regular sewing pattern if you were cutting out a garment. Just lay them down so that they don't move around, because I'm going to want a little bit of leeway on this fabric. So I might want to do a little more than 1/4 inch around because I'm going to be stuffing these. Now this is a stretchy jersey kind of fabric, so yeah, maybe we'll just cut them apart to begin. I did not bring my fabric scissors. Oh my gosh, I only have these paper scissors. What a nightmare. This is why you never cut paper with your fabric scissors, because terrible things happen. These are not fabric scissors, but they are very dull. Okay, then kind of try to do this with these hack scissors. Oh, this is tedious. Okay. We're getting there. Just like people do slow stitching, I do slow cutting. All right, scraps out of the way. One down, sort of. I'll probably clean that up with fabric scissors before I actually place it on the canvas and stuff it. I have to also decide if I'm going to stuff it and seal the back up first. I don't know. I have to decide here what I want to do. I'll probably do a bit of research after this video on how Pacita did her technique for stuffing her canvases. Okay. Whoops. There we go. Almost there. A little bit off this side, I think. Oh, slow cutting, guys. It's the new trend. Slow cutting. Okay. So there we go. We have both of these eyes. Then what I'm going to do next, I think, is just get all these yucky little pieces of fabric out of here. I think I'll just begin the beading process. So I'll put these little pins back here, and I can take those off, but I will save them just because I will want to remember later on when I go back to trim this what I was trying to accomplish in terms of shape. So I did not bring thread. Okay, I'm just not planned well today. Let's see. I have to find a decent sized needle. Your needle has to fit through your beads, so don't make that mistake. And it does. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm going to pause you and go get thread. Okay, so I have finished my 2 appliques for the eyes with the beading. I tried to kind of pull the stitching a little bit tight so that it would cinch in a little, because this is stretch fabric. So I think when I have it stretched and stuffed, these are really going to stick out well. I'm thinking I might want to probably use like a black wool to stuff them so that there's no white visible through this fabric. The weave isn't super tight because this is a jersey fabric. So yeah, original sketch. These are the eyes, but they're going to basically be in this shape. This is what will be stuffed. I have a bunch of the extra beads in case I need to add more, which I probably will, so that's okay. So I think that's everything I have to do for this part of the project. Yeah, so that's the eyes. Okay, so I'm going to get started now on this, getting the sketch on the canvas. I'm going to start with the original eye pieces because that's going to be kind of the central focus of the piece. That's the part that I'm going to use the Trapunto technique, and they'll also be kind of the central focus of this piece because they will stand out more than everything else. So I'm just going to do a rough outline that I can decide what I'm gonna, how I want to do this. So there's one, and I think right there would be probably good. It's a good angle. Okay, so we have the eyes. So the fabric, we're probably going to look at doing that, not last, but a little bit later. A little bit later. Yeah. And I have to get some stuffing from downstairs as well. So let me just grab my original sketch here. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to make the hair look. I'm still kind of only halfway convinced with this sketch with how I want to do this. So the features of this face aren't really going to be necessarily in the style of Pacita Abad. I think the background will more be what I'm doing to appreciate her style. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. It's so hard to like get started when you're not exactly sure how you want something to look. But I think next I will define where I want the antenna to go. I didn't bring a pencil, so this is a little painful with a pen, but it's actually also kind of nice. Okay. Like if I can just define the facial structure, that I will be able to come back with what I want to do with the hair. Yeah, that's kind of the facial shape that I want. And then I want to do something that's sort of bee-like in the center here with this shaping. Hair. It's a little tough. Painterly. Just looking at the notes that I always write these notes that I do these really messy notes when I'm planning something, and then I don't even necessarily remember what I was talking about because like so much time passes between when I conceptualize doing work like this and when I actually get to do it. So I said face color, skin with yellow tone. So yeah, I'm trying to maybe accomplish like a yellowish skin tone, but with some yellow and black sort of painterly marking details. Gray edges around the piece, bee eyes, high defined cheeks, curly hair, because that's sort of my daughter's hair. And it's sort of golden, and I have to think about what I want to do with it. Framed in light, pink flowers on a light blue background. And then I'm going to be sewing on shashi mirrors, maybe some crochet motifs in the background, dots and fine marks to make the page busy. Like in Pacita's work, her backgrounds are always very busy and colorful. I may not use as many colors as she does because it's not enough control for me. I like a more controlled color range. She was a very sort of rainbows and darker, more jewel tone color inspired artist, and I'm not that kind of artist. And then fabric and stuffing. Is that all that I said? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I've got a little bit of a start, so this is good for now. I think what I'll do as the light is getting a little bit darker, is that I might finish out this sketch off camera for a little bit, and then I will come back with you when I get started on the painting.
I think filmmakers and painters have a lot of things in common. We both tell people something they don't know. What stories interest you?
Stories about people like us. Tell me about your travels.
My work are like inspirations of the many places that I visited, the many cultures that I see. Like I would go to Burma and I will pick up their gold thread embroidery, or I would go to India and I'll pick up the mirror embroidery, or Nigeria, Africa with their tie-dye. And then all of these things, I try to put it in my work. But sometimes I get into trouble. When I was in West Africa, I was painting a mulberry bark tree. And it was fantastic to use. And then I brought them here and I started sewing it and stuffing it. And I work on them and all of a sudden they're gone. So I said, bang, I gotta go back there and go get some more, I was born and raised in Batanes, which is the northernmost part of the Philippines. It's a very small island. During the Marcos administration, I started a student demonstration in Manila, which was, how do you say this, which happened all over the country. And because of this, my life was quite endangered. That's when my father said that I should go to Madrid and continue my law school. The United States was the last country I would think of going. Because for me, as many other third world people know, U.S. meant CIA. When I reached San Francisco, I started going to school and I never reached Madrid.
So moving to America turned your life upside down.
Definitely. America sort of gave me my independence, It gave me a freedom to do a lot of things. There was no family members to say, don't do this, come home early, come home this time. So in a way, I was free to choose what I wanted to do. People used to ask me, what do you call these things? Trapunto painting. The technique of the work involves stitching, embroidery, and a lot of sewing.
everything has the eyes attached and I stuffed them. I'm going to move on to the next bit with the sashimirs and the flowers. But now let's take a little break and you can learn a little bit more about Pacita.
I remember when I gave a workshop sometime in Mexico, there were so many men who took this workshop. They brought cassette tapes as a substitute for threading, so for sewing. I never realized that you can do that, So it's interesting because I learned so much from them and they learn from me, and it's sort of a collaborative thing.
We cut yellow like this.
I started painting late. I was a late bloomer, but I have so much determination because, I came from a big family. I came from a family of 12, if you know what that means. And if you came from that kind of family, you tend to fend for yourself.
You are going to use that as
Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
Art is for other people. It's not just for yourself, especially for people like us. You know that you're an Indian and I'm Filipino. And if you want to be included, you don't have any choice. We gotta go out there and tell them. Every Filipino that was coming out of the Philippines was considered a suspect of not having a real passport. So when I came to Hawaii, they told me, I'm not Pacita Abad, and they put me overnight in the customs detention center. It made me really think. And then I started encountering a lot of my Ecuadorians, the Cambodians, Vietnamese, Nigerians, and everybody. And they had the same stories. So now I have a big series of which I call my People of Color, the Immigrant Experience. The masks from 6 continents. That is what my mural is all about. They came from Latin America, Asia, Africa, North America, Europe, and Oceania. These are all the different people I see in the train.
Tell me, what have you contributed to this country, do you think, as an artist?
Color. I have given it color. I remember when I was a student at the Art Student League in New York, and we were all painting still lifes. It was a gray November. The teacher came next to me and he says, "Pacita, these colors are wild." And I said, well, these were the colors that I grew up with, Chinese red, yellows, and orange. And I can't help it. I have to paint with these colors.
Okay, so it is like a couple days later, and I think this is done. I think the piece is done. I was thinking about making the background a little bit more busy to sort of be a little more Pacita-esque, but I'm just not comfortable doing that. So I think that's going to be one of the challenges in this series, is being able to actually immerse myself in the style of an artist, even when I feel like some of what they do feels like very different from what my own style is. It's too gaudy or busy or primitive or, overdone or underdone or one of those things. So I'm going to do my best to just sort of keep an open mind and let it go and just go with the flow and remember what I'm trying to accomplish. But I'm really overall very happy with this piece. And I'm so stoked for this adventure that Pacita Abad has taken me on. So I'll talk a little bit about what I did, because some of this didn't get captured on camera. I suspect that will be the theme of this filming journey I'm on, is that I'll get some of what I'm doing on camera and some not, because sometimes you just want to curl up on the couch and sew something and you don't want anyone watching you and you don't want to have to set up a camera. So I'm going to be sharing mainly highlights. So I think a lot of it did get captured though, so I'll just kind of do an overview of what this piece is about. So to recap, I immersed myself in the style and the experience of Pacita Abad. And her work is characterized by a lot of things, multimedia, Trapunto, which is stuffed canvas that would be painted, a busy style, a lot of sort of different styles. She did a lot of techniques like together in pieces. So she was a complex artist who had a lot of color inspiration, very bright and colorful. I would say that this piece has more of a color theme that matches my own aesthetic rather than her very rainbow kind of aesthetic. Again, it's really hard to like let go completely when you're doing something. So what I am using throughout this series as my theme are my two children. So my daughter will be represented by a bee and my son will be represented by a moon, and those are a play on their middle names. So this one is representative of my daughter, so it is a bee girl, and my thoughts on this were basically to use the Trapunto technique, although I've done a slightly different stance on it. I think when Pacita was working with Trapunto, I think she may have built her canvases first and stuffed them and sewn down the canvas so that her white space may have already been the stuffed space that she would then paint on top of. And I considered doing that, but I didn't have enough of a visualization of this piece to be able to sort of go ahead and just create the canvas first. Maybe if I do this technique again, I will do that. So basically I painted this face. I took a sketch of, I did a sketch of a bee girl and how I wanted her to look. I wanted her to have a light skin tone with a bit of yellow, and so I've just roughly kind of given the idea of some features, including the nose, the chin and neckline, and originally I wasn't sure how to handle hair. I didn't know how I could make it look the way I wanted, so I had originally painted that actually in brown, and I didn't like it, and so I went entirely over it in gold leafing, and now I really like it. I think it actually change the direction of the piece. I ended up adding gold leafing in a frame around the piece, gold leafing on the shashi mirrors to tone the colors down. So then I did around the edges, I wanted some kind of a yellow and gray border sitting on top of this light blue. And so I did a lot of different colors of gray, yellow, orangey yellow, and just stippled around the edge. And then I added another element, which was the element of collage. So I used 2 napkins and I collaged them down. This one has very linear floral botanical details and bees, and then this one is like pink hibiscus flowers. So I added those on and then covered the whole thing with a glue, essentially a matte glue, and then went back and I sewed and stuffed on the beaded eyes that I made earlier in the video, and then I took some hand-dyed shibori silk, and this was from a scarf, and I basically sewed it down, and when I was sewing it down, I would sew stitches in the center, and I had a large circle, and I would sort of capture pieces of the circle so the fabric would ruche in when I would stitch it together. I added some of these beads into the center of each of the flowers. Then I added the shashi mirrors, and I put those on actually with Fabri-Tac rather than sewing them because it was a lot easier, and also I could get them closer to the edge where the wood frame of the canvas comes in. It would have been very hard to stitch them on. Fabri-Tac is a really great fabric glue. It's a silicone-based glue, so it's not going to let go. These will never fall off. So yeah, I think that sort of explains the piece. I'm happy with it. I think that it's going to hang in the house probably. Yeah, I'm happy with it. And then I'll show you the back. So on the back, you can see that all the stitching is visible. Oh, we have a piece of paper stuck there. So what I did after I stitched everything on is I went over the stitches with a bit of that same Fabri-Tac glue, so it just will lock that in place. This will never come undone, or, you know, nothing will come unstitched. So yeah, so piece number 1, project number 1 completed. Letter A, Pacita Abad. I hope you enjoy this video and that you'll be here for this series. Hopefully I will get something done maybe every couple of weeks. Probably I'll drop these videos twice a month because it does involve the creation of a whole piece of artwork. So next letter's B. I'm not going to give any hints as to what I'm covering, but it will be in the theme of my son, and it will probably involve moons in some way. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video and you're interested in this series, please share it with your friends and subscribe if you haven't. Subscribing helps to get the word out. It makes it easier for me to make content when people are actually seeing it. It's a little difficult these days to get seen on YouTube because of some very large companies that take away that that algorithm from actual creators. So it's nice to have people share your content. And yeah, so you can also check me out on social media. I'm Studioloo on Instagram, Facebook. My website is studioloo.com. All my socials are in the description box, as well as some more information on Pacita Abad. And have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.